Hello, friends, and welcome to my today's lecture, that is, the second part of the act wise summary of Oscar Wilde's play, The Importance of Being Earnest. Now, in my earlier lecture, friends, I had talked about the beginning of the scene in Algernon's flat in Half Moon Street, London, where I had talked about the conversation between Jack and Algernon, also about Lady Bracknell and Gwendolen having arrived at Elgie's place, and also the conversation between Algernon and Jack, where Algernon reveals that Gwendolen would not like to marry him because girls usually do not prefer to get married to the men they flirt with. He also mentions that his aunt, Lady Bracknell, would not agree of Jack being her daughter's husband or her daughter getting married to him because he flirts with her. He had also mentioned about Cicely. Now, Cicely's name came to the forefront because Algernon possesses a cigarette case of Jack which has an inscription on it with which reads from your with fondest from little Cicely with her fondest love to her dear Uncle Jack. Now, to the question of who Cicely actually is, Jack is unable to give a satisfactory answer to Algernon, and there they converse, have some not very hot discussions though. And later on, we see that Lady Bracknell and Gwendolen arrive, and Gwendolen and Jack, they find place for themselves, converse them, exchange certain love sentences among themselves, and Gwendolen even openly declares to her mother, Lady Bracknell, that she has been engaged to Mr. Worthing. Now, today I'll be talking about the remaining summary of Act 1 and the other acts. Now, when Gwendolen declares that she has been engaged to Mr. Worthing, it surprises Lady Bracknell, and she doesn't sound to be very happy with this decision of Gwendolen. So she orders Gwendolen to go out and wait for her in the carriage, for she wanted to inquire some important questions from Jack. After she leaves, there are many inquiries that are to be made by Lady Bracknell, and she does so, though even Jack answers to most of her questions up to her satisfaction. And it is towards the end that we see when Jack is asked about his parents or the parentage, he is unable to come up to the expectations of Lady Bracknell because, as he said, he does not actually know who he was by birth. And then he also mentions that he was found by Mr. Thomas Cardew in a bag which was left at the Worthy station. and because of that, he carries the name of Jack Worthing. Now, because he does not have any parents, or rather, he was found, he does not carry a very good, or you could say a reputable and a recognized position in a good society. That point becomes a little difficult matter for Gwendolen, or for Lady Bracknell, to get Gwendolen married to Jack. And she says that everything else is fine, but in order to call himself, or in order to get married to Gwendolen, Jack needs to find at least one parent for himself. And on that ground, she announces that she cannot have anything else to do with him, because she just can't allow her daughter to get married to a parcel. And with that statement, she leaves Algy's house in a fit of indignation. Now, Jack gets wild, he's full of rage towards Lady Bracknell, and once she leaves, he speaks to Algernon about it and calls Lady Bracknell a monster, in quotes, a monster, without being a myth, unquote. Now, Algernon actually wishes to know whether Jack has mentioned to Gwendolen about his two sides of being Jack as well as Mr. Ernest Worthing. And Jack reveals that the only solution of this problem of his is that he must soon show that Ernest is no more, or Ernest is dead. And he says that he would tell Gwendolen that his brother Ernest, he died of Paris apoplexy. Paris apoplexy. Now, Algernon also reminds Jack of Cecily, because Cecily is also a young girl now, young girl of 18, and she's excessively pretty also. So Algy also expresses his wish or a desire to meet Cecily Cardew. Now, at this time, Lane announces that Gwendolen has arrived in the house, and after coming, Gwendolen, she declares that it now, because of Lady Bracknell, she feels it now appears to be impossible to form any relationship with Jack, because her mother, that is Lady Bracknell, won't allow her for that. So she wishes to have Jack's country address, which Jack's gives her willingly. And Algernon is quite amused at this act. And here we see that Act 1 ends here, where we come to know that Cecily Cardew, she stays in Jack's house with her governess, Miss Prism, and Jack Worthing had been appointed as a guardian of Cecily by Mr. Thomas Cardew. Now, in this Act 2, we see that Cecily, she keeps a diary with her in which she keeps on noting, or rather jotting down, the wonderful secrets of her life. And at this moment, Dr. Chasuble also arrives there and asks Cecily to be a bit serious about her German lessons, as Miss Prism she's an excellent governess. And Miss Prism, she complains of a severe headache, and for that reason, Dr. Chasuble and Miss Prism, they take a stroll to relieve that headache. Now, Cecily also learns from Merriman that Mr. Ernest Worthing is also arriving there at the place, and so she wants that a separate room should be fixed for him. Now, Algernon arrives there, not Ernest. It's Algernon who arrives at Cecily's place, and whom Cecily takes to be Jack's brother, Ernest, and her own cousin, Ernest. So the dialogue that is exchanged, it thickens the mystery of the plot because of a little confusion is created because of the mixed identities among them. Now, she also informs Algernon, whom she takes as Mr. Worthing or Mr. Ernest, that Jack wants to send her to Australia. No, Jack wants to send him to Australia, and which he has denied. Now, he expresses his admiration for him, which somewhat embarrasses her. He also mentions this Algernon to Cecily that she's the prettiest girl rather that Algernon has ever seen. And at that very same moment, we see that Dr. Chasuble and Miss Prism enter the room, and when they see Jack also coming back at this point, they are all shocked to see him because his arrival was quite unexpected, and as he had said, he was expected only till Monday. Now, Jack, after coming there, he announces the death of his imaginary brother, Ernest, in Paris, and that he desired to be buried there itself. So, because Jack was wanting eagerly to get his name changed, he speaks to Chasuble, or rather, he requests Dr. Chasuble to Christian him. And in the very same afternoon, when they had met, and he says if Dr. Chasuble has nothing more important to do, he could finish off with that christening ceremony. Now, this brings a lot of astonishment, and that astonishment is expressed by all of them, but still the priest agrees to christen him along with two other similar cases. So Cecily arrives in quite a cheerful mood, and she also announces that Jack's brother is there in the dining room. Excuse me. When Jack listens to all this, he's quite taken aback, and because he knows there is no brother of his by the name Ernest there who could come, and he says that he hasn't got a brother, and Algernon appears on the scene at the very same moment, and he meets Jack as the said brother. Cecily also informs him that Ernest, who's Algernon here, has been telling her that he also wishes to go and visit his invalid brother, Banbury, and he leaves the pleasure of living in London to sit by the bed of pain for his brother. Now, while Chasuble he expresses joy at this thought, Miss Prism, excuse me, she articulates a sense of apprehension and fear, and Jack, amidst all this, is full of baffled emotions. More about this act-wise summary I'll be doing in the next lecture of mine. Till then, goodbye and thank you, friends.